So, 140ish years ago, Charles Darwin went on a weekend bender and woke up to find some drunken notes. While recovering from his hangover and reading through them, he realised he'd had a brilliant idea, that of the descent of man. Is this story true? No, but remember, no good story starts with a salad, and like a good barbecue, man's evolution depends on one great thing: meat. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Before we talk about man, let's look back before all of that, millions of years ago. But because we can't do that, we'll have to use the fossil record. Now, while it's not perfect, there is a great deal of evidence in the fossil record that supports the theory of evolution. But there is something to bear in mind. Evolution is a gradual process, and there is no easy way to distinguish what might have been the last thing that wasn't a bird to the first thing that was a bird. Now, the great thing we must remember about fossils is every fossil ever found is a transitional fossil, because evolution has no end goal and is always happening. But how do we know how old these fossils are? Well, this can be done in several ways, the first of which is identifying the rocks that these fossils were found in. This is called stratigraphy. Volcanic ash is a key part of this, as volcanic ash contains elements like uranium and potassium, which have known decay rates. But this is not the only thing we can look at. New rocks caused by volcanoes contain no argon gas, and the rate at which argon gas accumulates in rock is also known, so we can determine how old the rock is based on the amount of gas in it. While this would not give us an exact date down to the day, it would give us a clear window of time, for example, 35 to 40 million years. And while 5 million years might sound like a huge amount of time in the grand scheme of things, it isn't. Another method would be radioisotope dating of the fossil itself. An element like uranium-235 takes 700 million years to turn to lead-207, meaning if there's 50% uranium to lead, we can say the fossil is around 350 million years old. Now, the decay rates of these elements are constant. For them not to be would mean a lot of things would have to change. The strength of nuclear and electrical forces, the mass of fundamental particles, and Planck's constant, leading to a very different world of physics and chemistry today. And yet, young Earth creationists would like to deny this fact by saying the rates might have changed. Young Earth creationists will also try to use events in the Bible, like the flood, to give reasons for all the fossils being laid down. But if there was a flood in 2348 BC, then why didn't the Egyptians record it? This was around the time of the 5th and 6th dynasties, and the pyramids themselves show no signs of water damage, not even the much smaller ones. And let's not get into how many people have been around after the time of the flood. Though luckily creationist Henry M. Morris has devised a calculation for human population growth from Adam and Eve to the year 1800 AD, showing that population levels can go from 2 people to the estimated population of 1 billion. Except he forgot to account for the flood. Now, the timings of the flood might be off, so I suppose young Earth creationists' greatest weakness would be trees older than 6,000 years. Meet Pando, also known as the Trembling Giant. It's a clonal colony of trees that even conservative estimates put at 80,000 years old. Again, a lot older than young Earth creationists give for the Earth, but a lot younger as some of its friends. Meet Methuselah, 4,849 years young, and its fellow bristlecone tree at 5,062 years. Even here in the UK, we have a yew tree estimated to be 4,000 years old in Llangefni, North Wales. Though I'm not sure how these trees survived the flood. So we understand dating, so let's move on to see what these fossils show us. And what we see in this is a snapshot of life millions of years ago, giving us hints and information about animals living at the time. But what is more impressive is as you work your way through the fossil record, starting at the oldest and working towards the newest, is we see a gradual change in animals, slight differences in structure, but still the same animal each time, moving away from the animal and into something different. A wonderful example of this would be Triceratops with its frills and horns. Figure A shows a partly developed frill that would not offer the same protection as Figure C, But while it is believed these frills might have helped with protection, it's also possible they were a development of mating, larger frills being more attractive to members of the opposite sex, furthering the development throughout the species, and later becoming ideal for defence, showing an element of evolution that technically only half worked before its full development. Now, as awesome as dinosaurs are, we are limited in our research to them because, well, they're birds now. But something that hasn't changed much over millions of years is the turtle, and we even have fossil evidence for the development of its shell, ranging from 265 million years ago to 228 million years ago, seeing the development of thicker ribs. But I can hear the calls now. What use would thicker ribs be to a pre-turtle animal? And while this is a great question, don't interrupt me. Now, paleontologists have worked back through fossils what we believe to be the turtle's granddaddy, Papaocollis, and strangely enough the animal lived not in the ocean but on land, its thick ribs aiding to stabilise its body when digging. A great tie-in between modern turtles and this granddaddy of turtles is the resemblance to early turtle embryos before the ribs fully developed into shells. But all this can still be met with denial and skepticism, so let's look at something else. How about evolutionary hiccups? Maybe something like the recurrent leandrical nerve, a nerve that seems to have had one too many and got lost on a journey moving from the brain down to the heart and back up to your voice box. Now in something like a fish, the same journey would not be too far, but as necks developed, this becomes more and more of an issue, becoming a journey to rival the Fellowship of the Rings by the time you get to something like a giraffe. Now, I have heard the argument made that because the nerve gives off filaments at the base of the heart before coming back up to the voice box, that this is fine. But if the nerve can split filaments off, would it have not been simpler to split next to the voice box and then the rest of the nerve to continue to the heart? That would make more sense from an intelligent design point of view. I've also heard the argument said that God was simply using a working design, much like other engineers would, almost a copy-paste idea. To which I would also like to tell you to stop drinking and have a look with your eyes, which strangely enough are designed differently throughout many creatures. So God can use his infinite time to design eyes differently, but uses a silly design for a nerve? And let's not get into vestigial organs. From whales and their back legs, flightless bird wings, dandelion sexual organs, partly formed eyes in blind fish, our own coccyx, wisdom teeth, goosebumps, the muscles in our ear, or even the remains of our third eyelid. And let's not even get into something like the palmer's grasp reflex and vestigial behaviours.